Coach Gracia, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hop on here and chat a little bit. So for the listeners at home, will you tell us a little bit about your background, your motivation, and kind of where you are currently?
Yeah, I'll try to make it fairly concise for you. I grew up just outside of Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
have lived in the Pacific Northwest my entire life, was always active and into sports growing up. Baseball was my biggest one, also played basketball growing up. And I think like a lot of kids, as they get fairly competitive with baseball and they're on the high school baseball team or whatever the sport is, baseball was my sport,
Okay.
the coaching staff encourages the athletes to get in the weight room and start lifting weights to get bigger, stronger, be a better athlete and be more competitive on the field. And that was available to us at my high school. I think when I was a sophomore in high school, and so I started taking the basic weight training class and just loved it right from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got kind of initially into strength training, mostly as sort of, okay, put on some muscle, get bigger and stronger for baseball.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people, it, just because it becomes something you love in and of itself, and
Yeah.
you just do it anyway. Like I haven't played baseball for, a long time, but still love being in the weight room and doing my strength and my conditioning and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was the initial exposure. And then when I went off to college, I ended up at Linfield College, which is in a suburb of Portland, Oregon, for anybody who's listening that doesn't know that. And they had an exercise science program available. And going into, that sort of senior year high school, freshman college transition, I didn't even know that was a thing. My goodness, this looks really cool.
Yeah.
What's this all about? And so that ended up being one of my majors when I was at Linfield.
Okay.
And really enjoyed it a lot. Learned enough to get started, and I also think I learned enough to know that it wasn't going to be enough for me to rely only on that forever, and so always, grow as a professional.
Yeah.
So anyway, the story after I graduated was I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I ended up applying to a master's degree program in exercise science, which was at Bond University in Australia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm not really familiar with Australia's college scene, but from what I remember, they were the only private university down in Australia, and were definitely billed as one of the top programs, very highly respected and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And their programs coincide with the calendar year, at least the Bond do. And so I, graduated from Linfield here in the U.S. in around, I think, Memorial Days, I think, when we do graduation. And so I had, a fair chunk of time, like 8 months or so of sort of downtime before I would go to Australia and start my program there. Well, during that period, you do all of the paperwork and you do all that stuff to get it all going, and realize that they don't really do any financial aid for international students.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that was a surprise to me because here in the U.S., that's a pretty common thing, actually, is the U.S. has a lot of good programs to get exchange students and things like that. So, shame on me for not looking into it earlier. I just assumed that it was going to be sort of reciprocal or whatever. But it was a pretty expensive program. This was back in 2007, 2008, and it was like $60,000 a year.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was like, I talked to some people that I trusted to give me good advice, and came to the conclusion that it was not money that I'd be able to make back probably in any reasonable amount of time. Yeah. So I decided to just forego the program and just stay put. And during that interim, I had taken a job at just a 24-hour fitness here in downtown Portland. Yeah. And thinking it was only going to be for less than a year. And because I was already in there, foot in the door, and starting to get a busier schedule of appointments, I just stuck with it for a while. Yeah. And so I stuck with it for a little while. And for the most part, I really liked it. I mean, I think, the big box gyms have certain reputations, but you can make it good if you choose to make it good, right?
Yeah,
You
get out what you put in.
Positive attitude, you can make of it what you want to make of it. And so anyway, I was there for a couple of years and was doing fine, but I also realized I probably didn't want to be there in that position forever. Yeah. And so I did a little bit of soul searching, kind of figured out, okay, what options do I want to do? and sort of narrowed it down to two things that I was trying to decide between.
Mm-hmm.
One was seriously go back to school, but instead of stopping at a master's, go for the PhD route and try to get into academics and be like a professor at a college or university.
Yeah.
Or two, this was right around the time where the sort of independent like warehouse gym boom kind of first started.
Okay.
And that was very attractive to me also. And so those are my two things I was trying to kind of decide between.
Okay.
And so what ended up happening was Mira went with me. Mira's my wife. We weren't married at the time, but now we own the business together.
Yeah.
We're married. She went with me on a trip to meet two professors whose research I liked, and two coaches who own private training facilities that I admired their work and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So we flew from Portland. All of these facilities were back east. So we went to Professor Kramer at University of Connecticut.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
Professor Stuart McGill up at Waterloo.
Some big names, yeah.
Yeah. So it was really cool. Got to meet with both of them.
Yeah.
Tour facilities. Both of them were awesome and spent like 2 or 3 hours with me, kind of showing me around and answering questions. And I was very flattered to know how busy they are, and they took a bunch of time out of their day to meet with. So I got to see what their programs were like, talk to them about it, and get a feel for, is that the route that I want to go? Mm-hmm. And the two coaches that I met with, where I went to Boston and met with Mike Boyle, and kind of spent a couple days at his facility. Yeah. And went to New Jersey and met with Joe DeFranco.
Oh, wow.
He had a gym
so you're shooting for the top here on these, yeah?
Yeah. And so the one that hands down was the, like, this is my calling moment was DeFranco's gym. Like, for sure. He was one of the biggest, earliest influences on me in sort of figuring out what I wanted to do. Okay. And so it was like from that moment, now I know, okay, this is my vision. This is what I want to have someday. Now I need to figure out how to take that vision and make it a reality. Yeah. That's kind of the backstory of how I got into it. Okay. So we get back into Portland. Now I know that this is what I want to do. Yeah. And so I start researching. I start, trying to figure out what advice gym owners have for aspiring gym owners and things like that. And the one piece of advice that seems to be repeated over and over again by pretty much all of these successful gym owners is that if you open a gym, it's not going to fail because of your lack of passion as a coach or because of your lack of ability to instruct, right? It's because you don't have the back-end business knowledge to make the actual business work. Yeah. And so their advice is learn more about that, get experience with that, and that's the kind of make it or break it point. And so I took that to heart, and I decided the best thing for me to do, even though I had been sort of not wanting to do it for a while, was move into a management position at 24 Hour Fitness, who I'm still with. Yeah. Because it's the best way to get sort of in the trenches experience, hiring trainers, developing trainers, having to, of course, do discipline if anything wasn't going according to how it should have been. And, of course, meeting sales quotas and managing budgets and things like that is a very real and very important part of that. Yeah. So I worked my way into that position, did it for a while, thankfully had good success and was able to help my company hit some pretty good numbers that they had never been able to achieve before. Okay. And so it was sort of that confidence and that experience is, I think, very key to one of the reasons Industrial Strength has had the success that it's had. Wow. Okay. So what's kind of your personal or business or even like your training philosophy for Industrial? Yeah. So we say on our website, we picked the name Industrial Strength for two reasons. One, we're in the industrial district of our neighborhood of Portland, and we're a gym that focuses primarily on strength training, so it's kind of a play on words there. Okay. And then, which I thought was really clever, by the way. Yeah. And then, two, I think most people, when you think of something that is built industrial strength, you think about something that's built to last, right? It's built to endure year after year, and it's not going to wear out, right? And so that's sort of our training philosophy is we are a strength training gym as our primary thing. Yeah. And we do that with a lens that we really focus on sustainability with our programs. We're not a place that I want to have somebody come in and go crazy, like training double days every day for a few weeks and then just fizzle out and burn out or get reuse injuries or get things like that. So it's we're sort of this like middle ground between some gyms that are like all about intensity all the time, right? Like that's not us, but we're also not the place that is the more kind of yoga Pilates-esque, like whatever, like kind of easy type stuff. That never lifting anything heavy or straining too much. We're sort of you're gonna do your barbell lifts, you're gonna do some kettlebell lifts, you're gonna work hard and get strong, but again with that lens of sustainability on it.
Okay. And then you touched on a little bit when you met Coach DeFranco, but what's kind of like your major goal and what is that vision?
Well, it changes over time, and it will for sort of anybody that opens a business, and certainly changes for us as well. And so if anybody's listening out there and they're thinking about opening a business, you should have a vision going in, and you also should be willing to revisit that once in a while because it's going to change.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So when we first opened, basically my wife and I said that, if a gym like ours already existed, we probably just would have joined that gym and we never would have opened it. So what we wanted to do is create strength training and make it available to adults in sort of a group setting. Not high intensity WODs, not spin classes, not whatever, like actual strength training, but make it available in sort of a class group camaraderie based session. And it worked great, and that still is what we do. What has sort of evolved over time is that when we first opened, there was a lot of people that sought us out that already were fairly fit and had a pretty good experience level with these things because they'd been looking for a place like this. In the first few years, most of the people that came in were people that, already had a high fitness level and already had good experience with this stuff. What ended up evolving is that as sort of our name got out there and people that maybe weren't like a gym person heard about us, we're starting to get people that come try us out based off of reputation or based off of referral or whatever, that they're not a gym person. We might be the first gym membership that they've ever had. Right? And so our programs have evolved to be, sort of more accommodating to somebody that's coming in like that to make feel like, okay, like it's not crazy bro-y. Like these people are nice and welcoming and I'm not in over my head too much. They're going to meet me where I'm at. And, I think for a lot of coaches, that's a very rewarding thing where you can take somebody that has never had a positive mental or emotional relationship with exercise, and you're able to help them cultivate that, where now it's an important part of their life and they look forward to doing it. That's really rewarding, and that's very much the direction that we're going in now.
I like that, and I think that's a big point as well, because if you have no background in athletics or anything like that, it's hard for someone to get into it. And like you said, like those crazy high intensity WODs are not always super attractive to everybody. Not everybody wants to do that. But at the same time, not everybody wants to do stretching and, Pilates classes and things like that. So I think that's awesome what you guys offer.
Yeah, we feel it's fairly unique. I still don't think that there's a lot of places, at least in our our neighborhood, our city that do that sort of thing. But we like it. Our members like it. It works for us, and we're sticking to our guns with it.
I love it. And then moving forward a little bit, right? So you talked about the business end of things. So what tips on business would you have for the general listener or someone who is trying to go that route and open one of their own facilities?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as I said earlier, that's probably why most gyms would fail if they do, is they don't have a good grasp on their budget and their numbers and that sort of thing. I do believe that the route that I took is sort of irreplaceable, where I actually had in the trenches experience as managing a team of 15 trainers or so for a few years. There's no substitute for that.
Oh, no doubt.
And I also understand not everybody's going to be in a position where they can do it. So advice one, if you can, do that because it's irreplaceable. If you can't, then you're going to have to obviously get your nose in some books and read some business books and things like that to try to at least get a grasp of it. And then these days it seems like there's more kind of mentorship opportunities. I know, for example, like the Cosgroves do some stuff like that. I think there's some other organizations that do, where they're sort of help you along at whatever stage you're at. You could just be in the, this is my vision, but I don't have anything stage. Or you could be like us, where you're, a little over 5 years in and you're plugging along, but you want to get to that next level. There's resources out there to help you wherever you are.
Okay. And so what tips would you have for, say, the marketing end of things? Because say someone has a sound business structure and all that, how do they get the word out on the product or services that they're offering?
Yeah. I think that the easy and cop-out answer, it is a real answer, is obviously leverage your free resources such as social media first. Right? But I think, since everybody's going to say that, some other advice that people might not be as accustomed to hearing, networking has been a big part of what we do. And I think that goes hand in hand with one of the things I mentioned earlier, the continuing education opportunities. Right? If you actually physically go to continuing education shops and certifications and things like that, you're going to meet other industry professionals. They could be trainers, they could be clinicians, they could be, equipment manufacturers, that are also invested people in the industry. And those relationships are so important to have, right? When we get somebody who's referred to us from a clinician, this person maybe was either at a different gym, or maybe they were a runner or something like that, and they needed some, clinical care for injuries or whatever. And then their clinician says, hey, you really would benefit from some strength training. Go see Mira and Tony over at Industrial. That's a huge relationship to have, and that's been one of the big things that has helped us for sure.
Okay.
Ours has gotten to the point where we don't only interact with these people at industry workshops, but Portland's a really cool culture for this. But there's things where a bunch of, again, industry professionals, clinicians, trainers, massage therapists, whatever, will meet up and have beers on Sunday and kind of talk shop and just network and that sort of thing, just to keep those relationships, honed. And so that's something that is really important, and I think people probably don't hear a lot, and it's definitely one of the things I wish I had done more of earlier in my career. I'm glad I do now, but it would have been even better if I did more of it earlier.
And that is one of the really nice things about Portland. When I was there, you don't have to look very far to find somebody that knows their stuff in a specific field, right? Like Dr. Snell's right around the corner, you guys are there, and then it's just such a community of people that want to grow and get better. So
absolutely.
Really
Dr.
cool.
Snell was the one who organized the Sunday beer drinking thing.
Oh, really?
For a little while.
Wow. I love it. And so you guys are kind of a niche market in the sense that you are the only gym of your kind in the area, like you said. So how would one kind of develop a niche? And if they have that, how would they kind of manifest that?
One thing that I think is really important to me, and again, should be important to anybody looking to open a business that you are planning to be very passionate about, is authenticity. That word means a lot to me, and I think it should mean a lot to anybody that's potentially pursuing this. Our programs and services and culture, it's just authentic to who we are and what we do. Like, we don't make this up out of thin air just to try to have a business around it. This is who, I've been for a long time. I've done jiu-jitsu my entire adult life. I've done strength training my entire adult life. And I know I'm not the only person out there that either really likes both or will like both if they have the chance to be exposed to it in the right environment. And so, nothing about us that we've done is just sort of made up to just try to fill some gap that we thought we need to get filled. It's just, it's us. It's our authentic training. And, I think if you do anything besides that, you're not going to be passionate about what you do. Right? And this industry is a lot of work, and you put in a lot of hours and a lot of yourself into it. And if you're not authentic about why, I don't think you're going to last.
I love it. Okay. And that kind of ties into this next question, right? So you guys offer a lot of things over there at Industrial, right? So you have, weightlifting, you have jujitsu, you have, some kickboxing, fitness classes, like the strong first, general training. Like, how do you combine all of that, right? And I know it's part of it is being authentic, but I'm talking like logistically in terms of like being able to offer so many things, you know?
Yeah, it is a challenge, and it's even a challenge for some of the people who train with us because they were like, "You guys do so much cool stuff. I don't know where to go, or I go one thing, but then I miss out on the other thing."
Yeah,
it's something we always try to strike a balance with, and everything like that.
Okay.
As far as again, getting started. Well, again, all the stuff that we do is authentic to what we do.
Yeah.
So it's in that sense, it's not that challenging to create our programs and to create our curriculum that we take people through and everything like that, because that's very near and dear to us and has been for a long time.
Okay.
As far as getting people started with it, one thing that we do not do is just be like, okay, you signed up for trial, I'm going to throw you to the wolves and like go try a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Because that's setting somebody up to fail, basically.
Yeah.
And so we do take great pride in our ability to set people up for success. And the way that we do it is different than a lot of other private facilities. Some people that come in, they really like that, and they like that we're different. Other people, it's weird for them, and it makes them like kind of be like, "Who do these guys think they are?"
Yeah.
But the difference is that when somebody signs up for kind of our trial period, we first do an initial like orientation session with them, where we sit down. We're going to talk about what's your background, what are your goals, why are you here, how can we help you, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then we also do an initial sort of baseline movement evaluation. We pull much of it from the FMS. It's not FMS verbatim, but close to it.
Yeah.
To just kind of look and get a baseline for how is this person moving, and do they have any red flags that I should be aware of. And we use that to sort of suggest what route they go.
Okay.
With a big part of it being we've designed some of our classes to be very scalable, very modifiable, and have lots of alternatives for people if they're having a challenge doing the main lift or main exercise that's shown. It's really not too much of a problem to give them an alternative that they can do that'll still let them get the benefit of it.
Yeah.
However, not all classes and programs are that way.
Yeah.
And so most of ours actually have sort of a test-in requirement, based on how they looked on their FMS, making sure that they've got a baseline, strength and fitness level on the associated exercises and things like that.
Yeah.
Before we put them in there.
Yeah.
As one example, we love kettlebells. We're, that's one of the things we pride ourselves on a lot. And yet we also have a healthy respect for kettlebell swings and snatches and things like that. And if somebody can't get into a good hip hinge with a neutral spine, it's not an if they're going to hurt their back, it's a when they're going to hurt their back, or something similar.
Yeah.
And if we see things on their movement screen that we're like, you know what, this person's, maybe needs a little work on this before we put them into dynamic, repeated hip hinges, we're going to have them put that work in first before we send them into the kettlebell program and have them start doing that.
Okay. Because
if you can't do a swing safely, there's not an alternative I can give you in that environment that actually makes you feel like you're participating, right? I can do some other exercise in the corner, but you know that you're the weird one in the corner doing something right now, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing that makes us different. We've done that from the very beginning. And it makes sense to us. We feel like we're setting people up for long-term success by doing that. And at the same time, it's different. Not a lot of gyms do it. In fact, I don't know any other gym that does it.
That's what I was about to say, yeah.
It take a bit of explaining to people to be like, this is our system. This is why. It's looking out for your long-term, right? I don't want to put short-term goals in front of your long-term health. And most people kind of come around to it after we've had a chance to talk with them, but it's different at first.
Yeah, I mean, and that's super unique because, like you said, like I have not heard of any gym that takes the time to make sure that users have the prerequisite, movement in general. Like, I've never heard of that before, so that's really cool that you guys do that in that way, and that you actually have a system and like steps and different levels. So that's awesome that you guys do that.
appreciate that.
Yeah, and then kind of moving forward, right? So on that kind of same note of programming, and you touched on it a little bit, but what does training kind of look like in terms of like the actual program for different groups, right? So you have your weightlifters, right? And then you have kind of your general clients. Obviously, there's going to be a difference in intensity and stuff like that, but how does the culture look for each group and that kind of stuff?
So one of the things that kind of comes with being a strength training gym and us being, again, authentic to it, is you don't want to just pick arbitrary numbers, right? Like I think a lot of gyms these days, they'll have everybody in the class lift 95 pounds for as many times as you can in, whatever the allotted time is, or race to get, 100 reps done first or whatever.
Yeah.
We tend to not be of that sort of system as much. So more of what we do is each of our classes has its core of like kind of 2 to 4 exercises that are the meat and potatoes, if you will, of that particular class or program.
Yeah.
And the participants of that are expected to sort of keep track of their weights that they do for, we have our own sort of benchmarks and vocabulary that we use for it.
Yeah.
But based on that, they make their weight selection, right? So if your sort of upper end weight is here, and it's not necessarily a 1 rep max. I know that's what a lot of people might be familiar with, but you can't have a 1 rep max kettlebell swing, right? So in our kettlebell program, we have different things. And so we take that and we're like, okay, for today, I want you to go this much below it, or today I want you to go this much below it, or today I want you to go this much above it, or whatever. And then the idea is to sort of take that benchmark and nudge that up as time goes by.
Okay.
And so in a given class, instead of everybody doing the same weight and trying to like get as many reps done as you can in a certain time, we more program pretty much the same sets and reps for most people, and then each person picks their weight that's the right weight for them to do for that many sets and reps.
Okay. No, I like that.
I think that's more how, probably more collegiate programs would do it that way.
Exactly what I was thinking,
If it was a power lifter or a weight lifter, that's basically how they do it, right? But people are not accustomed to seeing that in a group class, and so I think we sort of have been a little bit of a pioneer as far as figuring out efficient ways to make that work in a group setting and to integrate new people into it, that the people don't have a 1 rep max. They're not ready to 1 rep max. They have no business doing it. So how do we figure that out? So we've kind of got our systems in place for that have evolved over time, and it works pretty well for us.
Yeah. So, Coach, that really sounds like you've effectively taken the collegiate model and you've implemented it into private settings. So that's really awesome how you do that. And I mean, how is everyone adjusting to that so far?
I think it's very favorable. Our coaching staff likes leading the program. The participants either have never known anything different, and so they like it because of that. Yeah. And then people that did come up, maybe in a high school or collegiate strength training program, I think it's sort of nostalgic for them. Yeah. And they like it because of that. And it's, it's also results oriented too. We wouldn't do it that way if it didn't get people sort of the results that they were looking for. So
I love that.
People like doing it. They like the results it gives. And we like coaching it. So it's win-win all the way around.
Yeah, I love it. And so kind of moving forward with that, right, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but Portland has some really good resources in the field of like performance, strength and conditioning, rehab, all that kind of stuff. So how do you kind of bridge the gap between what you guys do and what everyone else is doing in their own little realm?
As far as, like the clinicians or things like that?
Yeah, just in terms of like, sorry, that was poorly phrased. In terms of like continuing education or just knowledge, putting more knowledge out there or getting more knowledge from other people.
Yeah, we really are big advocates of that in many ways. And at the same time, we're, I think, at a place with our continuing ed now where we don't go change everything that we do on a Monday when we get back from a continuing education course. Yeah. I think most people that have been in the industry for any amount of time and have taken some continuing ed they've gone through those phases where, when you get back Monday, everybody on your schedule is doing the new stuff that you learned over the weekend.
Yeah.
And that's exciting and it's fun. But then as I think you get some more experience under your belt, you realize you don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time.
Yeah.
You end up, having sort of your approaches and your methods and your systems that, fit your the population that you're working with and just kind of give you what you're looking for. And so when it comes to continuing ed, you're looking for little gems that will, kind of refine what you already do, or maybe fill a gap that you either knew you had, or maybe even didn't know that you had.
Yeah.
And also, I've been to continuing ed stuff where I've said, I've left and I said, okay, I can see why this information is great in a certain setting and for certain people. And at the same time, this is not something I'm going to implement in our program.
Yeah.
I've been to one in particular that was taught. It sort of came up and from a sort of European perspective.
Yeah.
All of the instructors were over here from Europe, and I guess culturally there it's a little bit different than here, where it's okay to ask somebody to take off their shirt so you can see how their body moves in this way and stuff like that during certain exercises, and even palpate and feel and touch and stuff like that. And in the U.S., that's really not part of the training culture in most teams. And I think it would make a lot of people feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Obviously, there could be some legal exposure for us for doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, if you're a clinician and you're in a private one-on-one setting and you have the appropriate credentials to do that, I could see how this stuff might be great.
Yeah.
But for us in a group class setting, or even in our one-on-one personal training settings like this, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So.
That's funny.
So, so I still like going and being involved in a lot of these things. Because if you can even take away one thing that really helps you, then I think it's time and money well spent. And even on the rare case that I don't find something I'm going to use, it still helps me build some good relationships and stuff like that.
No, I like it. Okay. And then pulling on that same thread of continuing education, right? Do you guys have like some type of staff curriculum or a model that you follow for continuing education?
We have sort of a hierarchy of things that we like our coaches to do. In particular, our main niche thing that we do is our Strong First kettlebell training.
Okay.
And so we coaches get opportunities to get more hours of work as well as get paid more per hour for keeping and maintaining an active Strong First kettlebell instructor credential. The other stuff that we do a combination of sort of teaching our coaching staff in-house with some certain training, as well as pointing them in the right direction for some resources that we think would be, valuable for them. And as things come up, we, try to go over them in our weekly staff meetings and stuff like that to make sure all of our coaches are sort of teaching from the same playbook, so to speak.
Okay. And then kind of moving forward with that, right? So, or I guess, in that same sense, how do you kind of approach the management of your staff?
In what way?
In terms of, you guys are all shooting from the same playbook, but in terms of like programming, does everybody program the same way? Is it, does people have freedom within that same system, or what does that kind of look like?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So, it's going to depend on what the scenario is.
Okay.
For our group classes, we tend to offer our classes during the sort of early morning block, like 6 a.m. Then we do another block around lunchtime, and then we do another block around evening.
Okay.
And even if it's not the same coach coaching all three of those, the early morning, the lunch, and the evening, all the classes still have the same curriculum, and I want them taught the same way.
Yeah.
So I personally write the curriculum for almost all of our classes.
Okay.
The exception being that my wife Mira, who is the weightlifter, she does the entire weightlifting program on her own because she's the head weightlifting coach and coaches the athletes at their competitions and things like that.
Uh-huh.
But for the other ones, like the kettlebells and the general fitness and the general barbell classes, I write the curriculum for all of those, and have it all typed out and everything, and we go over it in the staff meeting each week. So we go over, Monday, here are the classes, here are all of the exercises and the reps and sets and yada, 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 all that stuff. And we just get all of our coaching staff on the same page for all of it going into the next week. That way the morning coach coaches it pretty much the same way as the lunch coach, and they coach it pretty much the same way as the nighttime coach. That way, regardless of if the student comes in and they take the morning class or the lunch or the evening, they're getting pretty much the same workout and the same experience, no matter what time of day that they come in.
Okay, I like that. I think that's important as well. That way, the experience is essentially the same. So.
Right. Yep. And so that's how we do our classes. And then for the one-on-ones, we have some. It will kind of depend.
Okay.
Right. For somebody that comes in for personal training, if they come see us and they're like, I'm coming to you guys specifically for kettlebells because, I used to do kettlebells back at my old gym, but then I moved to Portland and they said that, oh man, Industrial Strength is in Portland. You've got to go see them for your kettlebells.
Yeah.
Well, of course we're going to do that. Right?
Yeah.
But sometimes we get people that don't really have a goal other than I want to get in shape. Right. For that, we have a general sort of, well-balanced program we like to try to take people through. And of course, we integrate their movement screen and assessment into it.
Yeah.
But the one-on-one settings are where we give our coaches a little bit more autonomy to, use their judgment and create some training plans and progressions that seem like they're a good fit for that individual. And so the coaches on our team kind of get a hybrid of the classes are things that they just sort of follow the curriculum as it's written.
Yeah.
And then for the one-on-one setting is where they get to sort of exercise their experience and knowledge base to kind of come up with what seems like it's going to be the right course of action for this individual person.
Okay, I like that. And that makes a lot of sense, so I really like that. And then, so moving in kind of this last segment here, right? So first question would be, so how do you kind of manage your time between the gym and outside life, or is there such a thing as having an outside life?
That's a great question, and especially if somebody is an aspiring gym owner, I think that's an important question to have. The amount of outside of gym life is minimal.
Okay.
Our staffing has fluctuated over the years, largely because we're fairly particular about who we hire on.
Yeah.
And we're not going to just, hire on anybody that, is going to turn out to be a knucklehead and not be a good fit for us. And so it takes us a while to backfill once we have some turnover with staffing. And so we had a little bit of turnover last summer, and we're in that process still right now where we're still being pretty particular about who we backfill it with. And so my personal schedule is, I'm both the opener and the closer almost every day of the week.
Wow.
So I get into the gym at like 5:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I don't truly leave and be done for the day until about 9 p.m.
Okay.
And that's a pretty long day by most people's standards.
Yeah.
The good news is I do have breaks in the middle of the day to get in my own lifting, get the dogs out for, their lunchtime potties and stuff like that. But your mind is still going the whole time, and you're still, answering emails and taking calls and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the hours are hard. It's also a challenge because, my wife owns the gym with me, and we're both full-time there. That's all we do is our only, source of income.
Yeah.
And so it is a challenge to sort of separate our, marriage and our personal life away from the business.
Yeah.
I know a lot of couples do end up opening gyms together, and that's a challenge that seems fairly universal for all of them. If there was an easy answer, I'd be happy to give it, but there's not one.
Yeah.
The best advice is to at least do your best to carve out some time for your personal stuff, even if it's just going to, dinner and a movie on the weekend or whatever. Yeah. That recharge of the batteries is important. And then another important thing is, it is okay to say no. You don't have time or energy or bandwidth to attend something or help somebody with something or take another appointment in your schedule or whatever.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we've learned is, we have, we're in a thankfully a good position where we have a couple hundred gym members at this point.
Uh-huh.
And we have great relationships with them, and they invite us to go to, birthday parties that they're having or all this stuff. But if we went to every invite that we had, we'd have like 2 events a weekend to go to. And we can't do that.
Yeah, it just won't work.
What my wife and I have kind of found is that, the gym is a pretty high energy place. Mm-hmm. So we're in a pretty high energy, pretty social place most of the time. And so what we like to do in our downtime with the weekends is just be homebodies with our dogs.
Yeah.
We like to pop on a movie or a Netflix series or whatever, cook dinner in, and just like cuddle with our dogs on the couch.
Yeah.
And that's what we like to do. So for some people they'd be like, man, that's really boring. But I would say to them, well, you probably work in like an office or a cubicle all
exactly.
day. Yeah. And, so you want to go kind of get that interpersonal interaction.
Yeah.
I get that 80 hours a week in the gym already.
Yeah.
I like to be a couch potato on the weekend.
I love it. And I can relate.
It's a good balance to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think most people who work in the industry can relate to it.
No, I love it. Okay. And then kind of one of the last questions here is, what are some resources that have had a big impact on you, whether it's a book or a podcast or a conversation with somebody?
Oh man, it's a great question. I think I kind of alluded earlier that the biggest early influence that sort of sparked me to open a gym and honestly set a lot of the culture and vibe of our gym was Joe DeFranco. Joe's a great guy.
Yeah.
He is super, super passionate about what he does, and he's in this industry for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
And so he's somebody I, still really admire, and think he's definitely one of the good guys in the industry for sure.
Okay.
And so, he was one of my earliest influences.
Yeah.
As time goes on, of course, you keep seeing what else is out there, and you find more as you go.
Yeah.
And as you know about us, but I'm not sure that all the listeners do, Pavel Satsulin and his organization Strong First have been very influential in what we do. We've been involved with them for a long time. The majority of our hires of employees have actually been people we've met through Strong First events and workshops and certifications and things like that.
Yeah.
And so that's been a huge influence, not only in our culture and methodology, but even in our staffing. That's been a huge influence for us.
Okay.
And then I would say that, and we still are involved with them all the time.
Yeah.
They've actually just recently launched an accredited gym program.
Okay.
Which is not something where you can just simply. It's not available to everybody. You just sort of pay your annual fee and you all of a sudden become an accredited gym.
Yeah.
It's there's a more robust application process, and it's I consider it an honor to be invited to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And we're still the only Strong First accredited gym in the state of Oregon.
Okay.
So I'm pretty proud of that.
It's a big deal.
And it's a big deal to us for sure.
Yeah. I like that. Okay.
And then I would say the third sort of industry professional that I've actually unfortunately never had a chance to meet him, but I really like all the content he puts out as well as his attitude and demeanor is Coach Eric Cressy out of the Boston area. He's got he knows his stuff like for sure, and at the same time like you can tell that just being at his place and either being an athlete there or being a coach there is just fun. Like, it looks like a fun place. It for me is kind of that perfect balance of, man, this guy really knows his stuff. He teaches his exercises really well. He obviously programs well. And at the same time, he's a meat-headed heart.
Yes.
I can love, right?
Exactly.
He still gets down and lifts some heavy weights and, likes all that same stuff that deep down I think a lot of us still like too.
Yes.
So
I agree.
I really like his stuff a lot, and I refer to it a lot with our programs too.
Okay. And then moving into this very last segment here, so just a few rapid fire questions. So I'm going to ask a question, then just kind of give me the first kind of thought or phrase that comes into your mind, right? So the first one is, if you have any, what are some quotes that you live by?
Some quotes that I live by. Man, I don't know that I have anything that like I repeat to myself like all the time.
Yeah.
But we actually just recently wrote up a couple like kind of like core values for our business and things that we want to make our decisions based off of. And two that sort of stand out to me are first one that I wrote down when I was writing these core values is you get out what you put in. I think that's true in pretty much any area of life, be it the weight room, be it business, be it a relationship or a marriage or whatever.
Yeah.
I think you get out what you put in.
Yeah, I love it.
I think that's true, and I think most people can relate to that. And then another one that means a lot to me too, and it's funny. This has been fairly natural to me, and then as I've sort of matured and gotten older, I've realized it's not natural and intuitive to everybody. So I think maybe it might help some people. But to borrow a phrase from a book called the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's called begin with the end in mind. So I always think about what is my end goal?
Yeah.
What am I trying to do? And that dictates my behavior today.
Yeah.
Right? I think a lot of people, they just see today in of itself and they don't like realize how that affects like tomorrow and next week and next year and so on. So, we do that with our programming. I try to use it in all of our areas of life, right? Like, even outside of the gym, like in my marriage and stuff like that, I think that's an important thing is, showing that love and appreciation for the people around you so that those relationships stay strong year after year.
I like it. Okay. Is there a thought or experience from your past that you've held on to that has made a big difference in your life now?
Thought or experience from my past. Man, you asked some good questions that aren't easy to answer. No, I think one thing that is kind of a driving factor now in what we do that I can't pinpoint any one time in my past that has been like a huge one that sticks out for this, but I think we can all think of times where we felt like our future and important decisions weren't in our hands, and that's a pretty awful feeling to have, right?
Yeah.
When something that is really important to you doesn't feel like it's under your control. And so that's one of our big things with our business right now is we've got a few goals that I can't quite publicly state yet, but we'll be able to in the near future.
Okay. That
we're really trying to make it within our grasp. And if we didn't take action on it, it might not be. And so we're trying to get out what we put in, and making sure that we're able to be the ones that can control sort of our future in these important areas.
Okay, I like that. And then next question would be, what is the best advice you've ever been given?
The best advice I've ever been given? Well, I think especially when you're starting a gym, you get lots of advice, and some of which I listened to and some I didn't. I think going back to what you and I were talking about earlier, some advice of just listen to your gut and be authentic to who you are is why we're at where we're at with the gym and with everything that's going with it so far. A lot of advice that I was given that I elected not to listen to when we first opened was, start small, start in a really inexpensive place with like the cheapest equipment you can get to keep your overhead as low as possible. And I can understand why that might be the right call for a lot of people, but my gut was, we want to create a place where you walk in and you go, wow, this place is cool. And it sets us apart from all the other places just as soon as you walk in the door and you sort of just feel it. And I think that idea of just kind of like trust your gut and, be authentic with what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I think we're all probably been told something similar from our parents and grandparents and stuff like that from a young age. And there are times we listen to it and there are times we don't. But if I had not listened to that when we were first opened in the gym, we would not be where we're at now.
Okay. So in contrast to that, what's the worst advice you've ever been given?
The worst advice I've ever been given? Man, I don't know. I think I thankfully am pretty good about being a fairly thoughtful and analytical person.
Yeah.
And so if something doesn't really make sense to me, I try to frame it in a way where I'm like, okay, I could maybe understand that advice under a different circumstance, but given my current position, maybe that advice isn't for me. So
fair enough.
I can't think of any times I've been too terribly led astray with bad advice, thankfully.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And then the last question here. So what are some projects you're currently working on? How can people kind of reach out to you and follow your journey?
Well, if people want to follow our journey, our website is industrialstrengthgym.com. And on social media, our Instagram for the business is just @industrialstrengthgym. And then for me personally, it's Tony Gracia _PDX. So those are good ways to kind of follow our journey and stuff like that. As far as things that we got working on, well, if you follow those things like our website and our social media, you're going to see some new stuff here in the very near future. So I'll kind of leave it at that and let people keep checking back in for it.
I love it. Coach Gracia, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time out once again. I think a lot of people are going to learn a lot of things from it. So once again, thank you for your time, and hopefully we can connect again soon in the future.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on, and look forward to talking again soon.